On May 20th, 2016, at 0:08, Nicole VanderHeyden, a 31-year-old woman, was enjoying the evening with her boyfriend and his companions. Unfortunately, things took an unexpected turn, and the young woman failed to make it back home. Nicole VanderHeyden encountered Douglas Dietrich in January 2015. By then, Nicole had experienced marriage, motherhood with 2 children, and a divorce. Shortly after connecting with Doug, they began cohabitating, and within just a few months, Nicole discovered her pregnancy, despite their brief association. Nevertheless, both Doug and Nicole were elated about the prospect of parenting together. Fast forward to May 2016, Nicole, Douglas, and their trio of children, the youngest being merely 6 months old, resided together in Green Bay, Wisconsin. On the evening of Friday, May 20th, the youthful couple, Doug and Nicole, made an impromptu decision to attend a concert for some downtime. They had organized for a sitter to care for their kids while they were away. At the concert, a snapshot was captured showing Nicole happily engaged, surrounded by her cherished partner and his acquaintances. As the concert neared its conclusion, Nicole and her companions chose to head to a different pub to prolong their evening. Douglas informed her that he wanted to wrap up a chat with a buddy and would then meet up with her at the adjacent bar, where they planned to continue enjoying themselves. Surveillance footage showed Nicole having a good time at the bar, while Doug appeared to delay his arrival to join her. After a while, a disgruntled Nicole sent a heated text to him, accusing him of being unfaithful. Around 12:30 a.m., she attempted to call Doug, but he didn't pick up. Out of frustration, Nicole asked a companion to call Douglas's number from their phone, and he responded. Hayden was troubled by the fact that Dietrich was selectively ignoring her calls. She stood up and made her way to the exit, but despite her friend's efforts to detain her, they were unsuccessful. Feeling slighted, Nicole dashed out onto the street, turned at the building's corner, and vanished into the darkness of the night. Upon discovering Nicole had departed, Douglas and his friends initiated a search for her. They scoured the neighboring roads in their vehicle, but she was nowhere to be seen. Ultimately, they headed back to the bar, indulged in a few more drinks, and then returned home. Around 5:30 a.m., Douglas Dietrich contacted the police to report the disappearance of his girlfriend, Nicole VanderHeyden. He detailed Nicole's physical features for them. Shortly after Douglas's call on the same day, a local farmer reached out to the authorities. He had discovered the unclothed body of a woman amidst tall grass near his farm in Brown County. Initially mistaking it for an animal, he soon discerned the woman's blonde hair, her bare body clad only in socks, and a pink bracelet on her wrist. There was a considerable amount of blood nearby, and she had sustained serious injuries to her face. The police, upon locating the body, matched it with the description given by Douglas Dietrich, leading them to identify the deceased as Nicole VanderHeyden. Additionally, the site where her body was found was merely 3 miles from Nicole's residence with her family. Douglas Dietrich was summoned for interrogation by the authorities. He recounted that on the night in question, he and a companion departed from the bar around 2:30 a.m. His friend dropped him off at his house at about 3 a.m. Dietrich entered his home, went to sleep, and awoke near 5:30 a.m. At that point, he realized Nicole hadn't come back home and promptly called the police to report her missing. Dietrich asserted his innocence and refuted any connection to Nicole's disappearance or demise. The police informed him about the discovery of Nicole's body on the farm, which was a startling revelation to him. At the same time, detectives secured a search warrant for the residence of Douglas Dietrich and Nicole VanderHeyden. The search led to the discovery of blood on the garage floor and in the back seat of their vehicle. Furthermore, a pair of Air Jordan sneakers was found in the garage, consistent with the shoe print on the back of the deceased woman. Bloodstains were also present on the soles of these sneakers. In the early hours of May 21st, a patrol officer reported the discovery of various women's items scattered along a highway, about 2 miles from where Nicole's body was found. These items included her purse, mobile phone, and clothes. They were found near a structure across the road from Nicole's residence. At this site, police also discovered numerous bloodstains and several clumps of blonde hair, along with a phone charger cord. Detectives gathered over 70 pieces of evidence and dispatched them for forensic examination. They pieced together an estimated scenario of the tragic night that culminated in Nicole Hayden's death. Investigators initially hypothesized that a confrontation had erupted between Doug and Nikki when she arrived home at night, leading to the crime being committed outdoors. They speculated that Nicole was murdered roughly 120 feet from the front door of her residence. Consequently, Douglas Dietrich was apprehended and detained. However, after 18 days, the forensic analysis results were obtained. They revealed that the blood found in the garage, car, and near the neighbor's house was not Nicole Hayden's. In fact, it wasn't human blood at all. Additionally, the marks on the sneakers were determined not to be blood stains. On the night of the incident, Douglas was wearing a fitness tracker on his wrist, which logged all his activities, including steps taken, heart rate, and sleep data. This evidence corroborated the account he had provided to the police. He had driven home that night, checked on the children, and then went to sleep. As a result, Douglas Dietrich was exonerated and released from custody, clearing him of any suspicion. The investigation team was keen to unravel how Nicole managed to get so close to her home, given that her body was discovered only 3 miles away. They scrutinized surveillance footage from a bridge in Green Bay, theorizing that if she had walked, she would have crossed that bridge. Yet, their search turned up no leads. In a pivotal development, authorities found that the blood samples retrieved from Nicole's clothing, garage, car, and the neighbor's yard did not belong to her, but to an unidentified man. This posed a significant challenge for forensic experts, who were unable to conclusively identify this individual. However, a breakthrough occurred in August, nearly 3 months after the harrowing incident. The police were informed by the forensic lab that they had successfully isolated DNA material from one of Nikki's socks. This DNA sample was comprehensive and reliable. Upon entering the DNA results into the national database, they came across the name of George Stephen Burch, a man with prior residence in Virginia. George Stephen Burch relocated to Green Bay, Wisconsin on March 1, 2016, seeking a fresh start. A longtime acquaintance provided him with a place to stay and aided him in finding employment. Additionally, this friend lent Burch a red Chevrolet Blazer, which later became involved in an accident and caught fire. Several weeks following Nicole VanderHeyden's untimely death, detectives delving into Burch's background in the local police database stumbled upon a report concerning the car incident involving him. This report helped them acquire his address. The police then proceeded to Burch's neighborhood and observed him on the porch of his residence. The officers made a brief video recording to document Burch's appearance. In the car accident case files related to Burch, the detectives noted that the police had seized his mobile phone. The team working on the VanderHeyden case requested a copy of the data from George's phone. Utilizing cell tower records, local Wi-Fi networks, and GPS data, the investigators were able to establish that on the night Nicole VanderHeyden went missing, George Burch was present at a bar located merely half a mile from where Nikki was socializing with her friends. He had spent almost the entire night there. The GPS data from George Burch's phone revealed that at 2:30 a.m. he left the bar and drove to Nicole's house. He remained there for approximately an hour before proceeding to the farm where Nicole's body was later found. Subsequently, he traveled to the location where her clothing was discovered. By 4:22 a.m., George had returned to his own residence. 4 months after the demise of Nicole VanderHeyden, George Burch was apprehended and accused of first-degree intentional homicide. On February 19, 2018, a year following the tragic event, Burch stood trial. His defense lawyers sought to redirect the blame towards Nicole's boyfriend, Douglas Dietrich. However, the prosecutors were firm in their belief that Dietrich was not implicated in her death. They pointed to the evidence from his fitness tracker, which showed that he was asleep during the time Nicole endured the brutal attack and was abandoned near the farm. On the third day of the trial, Douglas Dietrich took the stand to provide his testimony. He disclosed that he and Nicole had intentions to marry, and this plan was discussed on the night of the tragic incident. They were enjoying themselves at a concert and had been consuming alcohol. Although Nicole was not typically a heavy drinker, that night she drank considerably more than usual. Douglas admitted that when Nicole decided to go to another bar with her friends, he and his friend chose to stay at the concert venue and continue their revelry, which included drinking and using illicit drugs. He acknowledged his delay in joining Nicole at the bar and recounted receiving irate messages from her, accusing him of infidelity with other women. Nicole made multiple calls to him, and eventually, her phone's battery ran out. Dietrich shared his confusion and concern regarding Nicole's anger towards him that night. He strongly refuted any involvement in her disappearance and subsequent death. Shortly after Douglas Dietrich's court testimony, George Burch's defense attorney introduced a critical piece of evidence: text messages sent by Dietrich to his mother merely 10 days prior to the incident. In one such message, Dietrich expressed, "I'm really thinking about telling Nikki and the kids they have to move." Dietrich later clarified that this message was not intended to be taken seriously. Furthermore, Burch's attorney brought forward testimonies from Douglas Dietrich's former girlfriends. They described Dietrich as a jealous and controlling person, often treating them harshly. One ex-girlfriend even alleged that he had installed tracking devices on her phone to keep tabs on her movements. On the night of Nicole's tragic death, she had confronted Dietrich, accusing him not only of being unfaithful, but also of being cruel. Douglas continued to deny all accusations and insisted that he had never been unfaithful to Nicole, nor had he ever raised a hand against her. In the courtroom, the nanny who was at Douglas and Nicole's house on the night they attended the concert gave her testimony. She recounted that upon Douglas's return home, she questioned him about Nicole's whereabouts, asking, "What happened? Where's Nicole?" Douglas's response was, "I don't know. She hit her head and just wanted to walk home." On the 8th day of the trial, George Burch presented his account of the events of that night. He started his testimony by characterizing himself as a hardworking person and a devoted family man. On the evening of May 20th, he was at a bar where he encountered Nicole. According to George, there was mutual flirting between them, and Nicole seemed receptive to his advances. He recounted that they had a friendly conversation that lasted until the bar closed at about 2:30 a.m. Subsequently, he drove her to her home, where they parked near a driveway and continued their chat for a few more minutes. George detailed that they engaged in consensual sexual activity in his car, with Nicole actively participating. George also noted that due to his size, he couldn't comfortably fit in the back seat of his car, so he stood by the open rear door while Nicole was inside. Following their intimate moment, he remembered being suddenly attacked from behind, which caused him to lose consciousness. Upon regaining consciousness, he found himself on the ground and saw Douglas Dietrich standing close by, pointing a gun at him. There was a considerable amount of blood at the scene. George stated that he was unsure whether Nicole was alive at that point. George Burch, a physically imposing man standing 6 feet 7 inches tall and weighing 113 kilos, provided a detailed testimony in court. He claimed that Douglas Dietrich commanded him to place Nicole VanderHeyden's body, referred to as Nikki, in the trunk of his car and transport it to a secluded field. According to Burch, he complied and put Nikki in the trunk, after which both he and Douglas drove to the farm. During this journey, Burch alleged that Douglas continuously pointed a gun at him. Upon arriving at the farm and carrying Nicole's body into the tall grass, Burch recounted a sudden confrontation. He turned on Douglas and, using his considerable strength, pushed him to the ground. Burch then stated that he managed to break free from the assailant, returned to his car, and fled the scene. While driving away, he disposed of Nikki's belongings by throwing them out of the car window. The following day, Burch met up with friends and went on a fishing trip, during which a photograph was taken, dated May 21st. Significantly, Burch neither reported the incident to the police nor confided in his friends about the events of that night. The prosecuting attorney asserted that the account given by the accused should be met with skepticism. The late Nicole would not have willingly acquiesced to satisfy a man she hardly knew, especially not by exposing her backside out of a car door at her own residence. The attorney was convinced that George took Nicole to her house intending to engage in sexual activities in his vehicle, but she rejected him. When she attempted to exit the car, Burch became infuriated. He seized a phone charger and used it to asphyxiate Nikki, then undressed her, leaving her only in her socks. He then disposed of her body and garments and returned home, hoping to remain undiscovered. The prosecutor contended that Burch's narrative was riddled with inconsistencies. Following the assault, disposal of the corpse, and his escape, Burch casually went fishing with companions the next day and appeared cheerful. Furthermore, the prosecutor presented in court the soiled garments of the victim. If Burch's version were accurate, the woman's attire would have been pristine, as George claimed she disrobed in his car. Nonetheless, in reality, Nicole's clothing was covered in blood and grime, suggesting she had struggled in them on the ground. Throughout the court proceedings, 2 women were consistently present, closely observing Burch and hanging on his every utterance. These women were revealed to be the sister and betrothed of Joey White, who perished in 1997. The suspect in White's demise was George Burch, White's neighbor at that time. George was exonerated and set free. Yet White's fiancée and sister remained convinced of his culpability in their beloved's passing. After 19 days of testimony and jury consideration, the judge pronounced his decision. George Burch was deemed culpable of a deliberate offense. The judge declared that the defendant merited capital punishment, but due to state regulations, he received a sentence of life incarceration without the prospect of release. Doug Dietrich exhaled in relief, as he had been apprehensive about being re-indicted for the demise of his dearly loved one, if not for the fitness bracelet's evidence. Without it, he might still be incarcerated. George Burch is condemned to a lifetime in prison, now incapable of further harming others. Nicole VanderHeyden's offspring are now in the care of their natural fathers. If you like this story, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new videos. Don't forget to like and share your opinion in the comments. See you in the next video.